In the quiet town of Hollow Creek, nestled deep in a valley where time seemed to slow down, the local historical society was a treasure trove of forgotten memories. Dusty books lined the shelves, antique tools hung on the walls, and boxes overflowed with yellowed letters and faded photographs. It was a place where the past whispered secrets to those who listened closely. One afternoon, Mrs. Gable, the society's dedicated but slightly eccentric curator, stumbled upon a particularly intriguing find. Tucked away in a mislabeled box was a large, sepia-toned class photograph. It was dated 1920 and featured the students and teacher of Hollow Creek Elementary School. The children, dressed in their Sunday best, stared solemnly into the camera, their faces frozen in time. The photograph was fascinating, a window into a bygone era. Mrs. Gable carefully dusted it off and began to examine the faces, wondering if she could identify any of the children. Perhaps she could even track down their descendants and add some names to the society's records. But as she studied the photograph more closely, she noticed something odd. At the very edge of the frame, almost as if she had been added as an afterthought, stood a girl. She was slightly out of focus, and her expression was unreadable. There was something unsettling about her presence, a sense that she didn't quite belong. Mrs. Gable felt a shiver run down her spine. Who was this mysterious girl? And why did she seem so out of place in the otherwise ordinary class photograph? This was a mystery that needed solving, a forgotten piece of Hollow Creek's history that was begging to be uncovered. The girl's face was a puzzle. In a grainy photograph, her features were blurred, making it impossible to discern her age or any distinct characteristics. Her eyes, however, seemed to hold a certain depth, a knowing sadness that contrasted sharply with the innocent faces of the other children. She wasn't smiling like some of them were. Instead, her expression was neutral, almost haunting. What made her truly stand out was her position in the photo. The other students were neatly arranged, rows of smiling faces, ready to begin their studies. But this girl was different. She was off to the side, almost hidden in the shadows. It looked as though she wasn't supposed to be there, or perhaps that she didn't want to be. Her body language spoke of someone who was detached, isolated from the group. Her clothes were also a bit strange. While the other girls wore simple, practical dresses, this girl's attire seemed slightly more ornate. Her dress had lace detailing along the collar and cuffs, and it seemed to be made of a finer material. It was as if she came from a different social class, or perhaps even a different time. Mrs. Gable circled the girl's image with her finger. The more she looked, the more questions she had. Was she a student at all? Or was she simply a visitor who had wandered into the photograph by accident? Maybe she was the photographer's daughter or a relative of one of the teachers. Whatever the explanation, Mrs. Gable was determined to find it. She carefully placed the photograph on her desk, making a mental note to start her research first thing in the morning. This mysterious girl had piqued her curiosity, and she wouldn't rest until she had uncovered the truth behind her presence in the old class photo. The faded image seemed to whisper, "Find me." The next morning, armed with a magnifying glass and a stack of old-school records, Mrs. Gable began her search. She meticulously went through each page, cross-referencing names and dates, hoping to find a match for the mysterious girl. She started with the 1920 school roster, carefully scanning each name, but there was no one who resembled the girl in the photo. Undeterred, Mrs. Gable expanded her search to the surrounding years, checking the records from 1919 and 1921. Still nothing. It was as if the girl had never existed, at least not on any official school document. Perhaps her name was misspelled, or maybe she had attended the school under an alias. Frustrated, Mrs. Gable turned to the local census records. Surely, if the girl had lived in Hollow Creek, she would be listed in the town's census. But after hours of searching, she came up empty-handed once again. The girl was a ghost, a phantom presence in the photograph with no corresponding record in the town's archives. As the day wore on, Mrs. Gable's hope began to dwindle. The mystery of the girl in the photo seemed to deepen with each failed attempt to identify her. Who was she? And why was there no trace of her existence? Just as she was about to give up for the day, Mrs. Gable had an idea. Perhaps the girl wasn't from Hollow Creek at all. Maybe she was a visitor, a relative of one of the students who had come to town for a short time. It was a long shot, but it was the only lead she had left. She decided to check the guest registry from the local inn, hoping to find a name that matched the girl's description. The search continued. The guest registry at the Hollow Creek Inn was a large, leather-bound book filled with the names of travelers who had passed through the town over the decades. Each entry was carefully written in elegant script, a testament to a time when penmanship was an art form. Mrs. Gable carefully turned each page, her eyes scanning the names and dates, searching for any clue that might connect to the mysterious girl. She spent hours poring over the registry, but once again, her efforts proved fruitless. There were no names that seemed to fit, no visitors who had stayed at the inn during the relevant time period who could be the girl in the photograph. It was as if she had simply materialized in the photo, a figment of someone's imagination. Dejected, Mrs. Gable closed the guest registry and leaned back in her chair. She had exhausted all of the obvious avenues of investigation, and she was no closer to solving the mystery than when she had started. Perhaps the girl was simply destined to remain an enigma, a forgotten face in a faded photograph. But Mrs. Gable was not one to give up easily. She knew that there were other ways to uncover the truth. She decided to reach out to the descendants of the students in the photograph, hoping that someone might recognize the girl or have heard stories about her from their ancestors. It was a long shot, but it was worth a try. She carefully copied the names of the students from the back of the photograph, resolving to start contacting their families the following day. Maybe, just maybe, someone would have an answer. The hope flickered again. The next few weeks were filled with phone calls and letters. Mrs. Gable painstakingly tracked down the descendants of the students in the 1920 class photo. Some were enthusiastic to help, eager to learn more about their family history. Others were polite but uninterested, viewing the past as something best left undisturbed. And a few were downright suspicious, wary of a stranger calling about a long-forgotten photograph. With each contact, Mrs. Gable described the mysterious girl, carefully detailing her appearance and her position in the photo. She sent copies of the photograph to those who were interested, hoping that someone would recognize her. But as the responses trickled in, a disheartening pattern emerged. One by one, the descendants confirmed that they didn't recognize the girl. They had never heard stories about her from their parents or grandparents, and they had no idea who she might be. Some even suggested that Mrs. Gable was mistaken, that the girl was simply a trick of the light or a smudge on the photograph. But Mrs. Gable knew what she had seen. The girl was real, or at least she had been at some point. The fact that no one recognized her only deepened the mystery. It was as if she had been deliberately erased from history, her existence wiped clean from the collective memory of Hollow Creek. The lack of recognition from the families was a major setback. It seemed that Mrs. Gable had reached a dead end. But just as she was about to lose all hope, she received a particularly intriguing response from a woman named Eleanor, the great-granddaughter of one of the students. Eleanor claimed that while she didn't recognize the girl, she had heard whispers about a tragedy that had befallen the school many years ago, a secret that the town had tried to bury. This gave Mrs. Gable a new direction. Eleanor's words sparked a new wave of curiosity, not just for Mrs. Gable, but for the entire town of Hollow Creek. As Mrs. Gable shared her findings with others, the story of the mysterious girl in the photo began to spread like wildfire. Soon, whispers and rumors filled the air, transforming the girl from a forgotten face into a local legend. Some believed she was a ghost, a spirit trapped between worlds, forever bound to the photograph. They called her the Ghost Girl of Hollow Creek Elementary, claiming that her sad eyes were a reflection of her tragic fate. Others suggested she was a cursed child, a bringer of bad luck whose presence had been deliberately concealed. Old-timers shared hushed stories passed down through generations, tales of a terrible accident at the school, a devastating fire, or a mysterious illness that had claimed the lives of several students. These stories, often contradictory and embellished with time, added fuel to the growing legend of the Ghost Girl. Children dared each other to visit the historical society after dark, hoping to catch a glimpse of the photograph and perhaps even see the ghost girl herself. The photograph became an object of fascination and fear, a tangible link to a dark and forgotten chapter in Hollow Creek's history. Mrs. Gable, while initially dismissive of the supernatural explanations, couldn't deny the power of the legend. The story of the ghost girl had captured the imagination of the town, and it had reignited interest in the history of Hollow Creek. However, she remained determined to find a rational explanation for the girl's presence in the photo, dismissing the ghost stories as mere folklore. It was around this time that a young, tech-savvy enthusiast named Ben offered to help, suggesting a digital analysis of the photograph. Ben, a recent college graduate with a passion for both history and technology, was intrigued by the mystery of the ghost girl. He saw the digital analysis as a way to bring modern tools to bear on a century-old puzzle. He assured Mrs. Gable that he could enhance the photo, sharpen the details, and perhaps even uncover clues that had been missed by the naked eye. He carefully scanned the fragile photograph into his computer, creating a high-resolution digital copy. Then, using specialized software, he began to work his magic. He adjusted the contrast, enhanced the colors, and sharpened the focus, revealing details that were previously hidden in the grainy image. As he zoomed in on the mysterious girl's face, he noticed something peculiar. Her features were not just blurred, they seemed almost superimposed. It was as if her image had been layered on top of the original photograph, like a ghostly apparition. He ran several filters and algorithms, carefully analyzing the pixels around the girl's image. He also paid close attention to the texture of the photograph. He noticed that the area around the girl's image was slightly smoother than the rest of the photo, as if it had been retouched or altered in some way. This was a significant discovery, suggesting that the girl's image had not been part of the original photograph. Ben knew he was onto something. He spent hours poring over the digital image, experimenting with different techniques and filters. He was determined to uncover the truth behind the ghost girl, even if it meant challenging the legends that had sprung up around her. The digital analysis promised to reveal secrets that had been hidden for generations. His initial findings suggested the girl wasn't originally there. Digging deeper, Ben focused on the details of the girl's clothing. He used his software to analyze the fabric patterns, the stitching, and the overall style of her dress. What he discovered was even more revealing. While the other children were wearing clothes typical of the early 1920s, the girl's dress seemed to be from a slightly earlier period, perhaps the late 1910s. The subtle differences in style were difficult to detect with the naked eye, but the digital analysis made them clear. The cut of her dress, the length of the sleeves, and the type of lace used were all slightly different from the other girl's attire. It was as if she were wearing a hand-me-down from a previous generation, or perhaps a costume from a play. This discovery further supported Ben's theory that the girl's image had been added to the photograph later. If she had been part of the original group, she would have been dressed in the same style as the other students. The fact that her clothing was different suggested that her image had been taken separately and then inserted into the class photo. Ben shared his findings with Mrs. Gable, who was both excited and bewildered. The digital analysis was providing concrete evidence to support the legend of the ghost girl, but it was also raising new questions. Why had someone added the girl to the photograph? And who was she? The mystery was far from solved, but they were finally making progress. The subtle clothing difference was a critical piece of the puzzle. It was becoming increasingly clear that the photograph was not what it seemed. Ben continued his meticulous analysis, driven by a desire to unravel the truth behind the photograph. He used advanced image processing techniques to isolate the girl's image from the rest of the photo. He examined the shadows, the lighting, and the texture of her image, comparing them to the other students. The results were conclusive. The girl's image was not part of the original photograph. It had been added later, using a primitive form of photo manipulation. Her image had been carefully cut out from another photograph and then pasted onto the class photo, with the edges smoothed and blended to create a seamless effect. The technology used to add the girl to the photo was likely a combination of darkroom techniques and hand retouching. In the 1920s, photographers often used these methods to alter images, adding or removing people changing backgrounds and enhancing features. It was a time-consuming and painstaking process, but it was a common practice. The realization that the girl had been added to the photo was both shocking and anticlimactic. The ghost girl, the subject of so much speculation and legend, was not a ghost at all. She was simply a later addition to the photograph, a product of someone's desire to alter the past. But the discovery also raised a new set of questions. Why had someone gone to the trouble of adding the girl to the photo? Who was she? And what was her connection to the school or the other students? And what was the story behind the original photograph from which her image had been taken? The mystery of the ghost girl was far from over. The digital analysis had revealed a truth, but it had also opened a door to an even deeper enigma. The revelation that the girl's image had been added to the photo after it was taken sent ripples through Hollow Creek. The ghost stories faded, replaced by a renewed sense of curiosity and a burning desire to understand the truth. The chilling aspect wasn't supernatural. It was the deliberate act of altering history, of rewriting the past to include someone who wasn't originally there. Mrs. Gable and Ben found themselves at the center of this renewed interest. People stopped by the Historical Society, eager to hear the latest developments and to offer their own theories about the identity of the girl and the motive behind the photo manipulation. The photograph, once a forgotten artifact, had become a symbol of the town's hidden secrets. But amid all the speculation and excitement, Mrs. Gable and Ben remained focused on the task at hand. They knew that the key to unlocking the mystery lay in understanding the context of the photograph, in figuring out who had added the girl and why. They began to examine the other details of the photograph, searching for clues that might shed light on the identity of the manipulator. They looked at the names of the students, the background of the photo, and the overall style of the image, hoping to find a connection to the mysterious girl. They also decided to delve deeper into the history of Hollow Creek, searching for any events or incidents that might explain the addition of the girl to the photograph. They pored over old newspapers, town records, and family histories, hoping to find a missing piece of the puzzle. The focus shifted to finding the person who altered the photo. The quest was now about uncovering a motive, not just identifying a ghost. The central question that haunted Mrs. Gable and Ben was simple, yet profoundly complex. Why was she added, and who was she meant to represent? Was she a forgotten student, deliberately excluded from the original photograph, and later added as an act of rebellion or remembrance? Was she a symbol of something else entirely, a representation of loss, grief, or a hidden truth that the town had tried to bury? They considered various possibilities. Perhaps she was a student who had died before the photo was taken, and her family had wanted her to be included as a way of honoring her memory. Or perhaps she was a student who had been ostracized or marginalized, and someone had added her to the photo as a gesture of inclusion. They also explored the possibility that the photo manipulation was an act of vandalism, a prank play by someone with a grudge against the school or the students. But this seemed unlikely given the care and skill that had been used to add the girl to the photo. It was clear that whoever had done it had a strong emotional connection to the girl and to the photograph. As they wrestled with these questions, Mrs. Gable remembered something that Eleanor, the great-granddaughter, had mentioned, the whispers of a tragedy that had befallen the school. She decided to focus her investigation on this angle, hoping to uncover a connection between the tragedy and the mysterious girl. Ben, in the meantime, began researching the photographer who had taken the original class photo, hoping to find clues about his life and his motivations. He hoped to understand if the photographer might have had a personal reason to alter the picture. Their investigations began to take different but complementary paths. Ben's research into the photographer, a man named Arthur Peterson, proved to be a fascinating journey into the life of a talented but ultimately tragic figure. Arthur Peterson had been a fixture in Hollow Creek for many years, a skilled portrait photographer who had captured the faces of countless residents. His studio, located on Main Street, was a popular destination for families, couples, and individuals who wanted to preserve their memories in photographs. Ben scoured old newspapers and local archives, piecing together a picture of Arthur Peterson's life. He discovered that Peterson had been a respected member of the community, known for his artistic eye and his gentle demeanor. He had been married to a woman named Clara, and they had one child, a daughter named Lily. But as Ben delved deeper, he uncovered a darker side to Arthur Peterson's story. He learned that Lily had died at a young age, succumbing to a sudden illness that had swept through Hollow Creek in the late 1910s. The loss had devastated Arthur and Clara, and they had never fully recovered from the tragedy. Ben found a faded obituary for Lily in an old newspaper. The description of her matched the girl in the photograph. The obituary mentioned that Lily had been a bright and cheerful child, loved by all who knew her. It also mentioned that she had a passion for photography, often accompanying her father to his studio and helping him with his work. The discovery of Lily's death gave Ben a chilling realization. The girl in the photograph wasn't a ghost, but she was a symbol of loss and grief. Arthur Peterson had added her to the class photo as a way of keeping her memory alive, of including her in a moment that she had been tragically denied. This was the beginning of the answer they had been searching for. As Ben shared his findings with Mrs. Gable, a wave of sadness washed over them both. The mystery of the ghost girl was finally solved, but the solution was more heartbreaking than either of them could have imagined. The chilling revelation wasn't about the supernatural, but about the profound grief of a father who had lost his child. Mrs. Gable remembered Eleanor's words about a tragedy that had befallen the school. She realized that Lily's death had been that tragedy, a devastating loss that had cast a long shadow over Hollow Creek. It explained why no one recognized the girl in the photo. She had died before most of the students had even met her. The realization also explained why Arthur Peterson had added Lily to the class photo. He had wanted to include her in a moment of joy and community, a moment that she had been denied in life. He had wanted to keep her memory alive, to ensure that she was never forgotten. Mrs. Gable and Ben decided to visit Arthur Peterson's former studio, which was now a small antique shop. As they walked through the dusty aisles, they imagined Arthur Peterson working in his darkroom, carefully cutting out Lily's image and pasting it onto the class photo. They imagined the tears streaming down his face as he performed this act of love and remembrance. They found a box of old photographs in the back of the shop. As they sifted through them, they discovered several portraits of Lily, her bright eyes sparkling with life. They realized that the image of the ghost girl had been taken from one of these portraits, a testament to Arthur Peterson's enduring love for his daughter. The sadness was palpable. The ghost girl had a name, a history, and a story of love and loss. The discovery that Arthur Peterson, overcome with grief, had added his daughter Lily to the class photo as a way to remember her transformed the chilling mystery into a poignant tale of love and loss. The photograph, once a source of fear and speculation, became a symbol of enduring parental love and the enduring power of memory. Mrs. Gable and Ben felt a deep sense of empathy for Arthur Peterson, imagining the pain he must have felt after losing his daughter. They understood that his act of photo manipulation was not an attempt to deceive or mislead, but rather a desperate attempt to hold onto the memory of his beloved child. They decided to share their findings with the town of Hollow Creek, revealing the truth about the ghost girl and the heartbreaking story behind her presence in the photograph. They organized a special exhibit at the Historical Society, showcasing the photograph, the portraits of Lily, and the obituary that Ben had found. The exhibit was a powerful and moving tribute to Arthur Peterson and his daughter. People came from far and wide to see the photograph and to learn about the story of the ghost girl. Many were moved to tears by the tale of love and loss, and they expressed their admiration for Arthur Peterson's enduring devotion to his daughter. The exhibit also sparked a renewed interest in the history of Hollow Creek, reminding people of the importance of remembering the past and honoring the lives of those who had come before them. The story of the ghost girl became a part of the town's collective memory, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, love and remembrance can endure. It was a sad but beautiful truth. The exhibit at the Historical Society became a permanent fixture, a testament to the power of love and the enduring nature of grief. The photograph, with Lily standing at the edge, no longer represented something sinister or unsettling. Instead, it was a touching tribute to a father's love for his daughter, a reminder that even in the face of death, memories can live on. The story of the ghost girl spread beyond Hollow Creek, attracting visitors from all over the country who were drawn to the tale of love and loss. The Historical Society became a place of pilgrimage, a destination for those seeking solace, inspiration, or a reminder of the importance of family. Mrs. Gable and Ben continued to work at the Historical Society, sharing the story of the ghost girl with anyone who would listen. They felt a sense of responsibility to keep Lily's memory alive and to honor Arthur Peterson's enduring love for his daughter. Years passed, and the story of the ghost girl became a local legend, a tale told and retold through generations. Children grew up hearing about Lily and Arthur Peterson, learning about the importance of love, memory, and the power of the human spirit. And every year, on the anniversary of Lily's death, the town of Hollow Creek held a special memorial service, honoring her memory and celebrating the enduring power of a father's love. The class photo, once a source of mystery and fear, became a symbol of hope and remembrance, a reminder that even in the darkest of times, love can shine through. The chilling aspect was gone, replaced by warmth and understanding. The ghost girl was finally at peace. The 1920 class photograph, once a simple record of a school year, ultimately became a powerful symbol of loss, memory, and the enduring power of a parent's love. Lily, forever frozen in time at the edge of the frame, became a reminder that even though death can take someone away, it cannot erase their memory or diminish the love that they inspired. Mrs. Gable eventually retired, passing on her curatorial duties to a new generation. Ben, inspired by his experience, pursued a career in digital archiving, dedicating his skills to preserving historical artifacts and uncovering hidden stories. Even after their deaths, the story of the ghost girl continued to resonate in Hollow Creek and beyond. The photograph remained on display at the Historical Society, a silent testament to the power of love and remembrance. And every year, on Lily's Memorial Day, the children of Hollow Creek would gather at the Historical Society, placing flowers beneath the photograph and whispering her name. They understood that Lily was more than just a face in a photograph. She was a symbol of hope, resilience, and the enduring power of the human spirit. The story of the girl at the edge of the photo serves as a reminder that every picture tells a story, and that even the smallest details can hold profound meaning. It is a reminder to look closer, to ask questions, and to never forget the power of love and memory. It became Hollow Creek's most treasured story, a tale of a love that transcended time and loss.